Welcome to the BackPageLead Vidcast again, and we're joined by Wayne Carey, or should I say, Coach Carey.
Very funny, Charlie.
You're looking in rude health, actually.
Hey, yeah, got the big game coming up next Tuesday.
Glowing.
So,
Oh, you have too. Fitness campaign going well?
Yeah, all good.
No pinged calf muscles?
Nope.
Interesting round of footy we've just had. Justin Sherman, I guess sort of a low light from what was otherwise a really good round. Justin Sherman reported, suspended and fined by the AFL for racially vilifying a Gold Coast Suns opponent. He got 4 weeks and a $5,000 fine. I don't know, do you think that's adequate? That sends out a strong message?
Look, to be honest, it's astounding that someone could be that silly in today's age. I mean, it's it's been in the news a little bit of late. A few supporters, and it's really been it's been discussed quite a bit. The last 3 or 4 weeks, that to do that was just stupidity, really. And I think 4 weeks is your right whack, and $5,000. I think that's all well and good. In actual fact, I think it's probably very fair.
Players get that,
maybe even a little bit lucky.
On the light side, yeah. Players, as you say, get that drummed into them from pretty much the time they join a club. You know how to treat women and how to treat.
Well, look, it's changed in terms of obviously when from the 70s, 80s, and when I first started, early 90s. It's now you really don't hear it. You don't hear it often at all. Actually, I've actually never heard it on the ground.
Really?
I've heard players admit that they did it years ago, and now looking back, and now with all the education that's gone on about it, you know that they're actually upset about what they said back then. Because
so you started in '89. You're saying you didn't hear any remarks about the colour of someone's skin.
Never heard a Torres Strait Islander Aboriginal footballer be racially abused. Did hear the Italian boys get abused a little bit,
such as
the WOG, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of that, which now is obviously not acceptable either. But and none of it is. But I suppose in some degree. Back then, people thought that was more acceptable than the other boys, which is not. I mean, what goes for one goes for them all.
You played with Winston Abraham and Byron Pickett and a few of the other players, and I know before that generation of Aboriginal players at North, Jimmy Cracker, I think, complained often that he was racially abused. Yeah. So I think sort of perhaps 10 years before your time, almost anything went.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about Jimmy, he handed out his own punishment. Generally,
and often connected, didn't he?
Yeah, left jab to the jaw. But yeah, no, look, it's just not acceptable. And so when you hear things like this, it is astounding. Like I said, it's really sad. Really is sad, and you just hope that we don't hear it again. Like I said, this just brings it to the forefront again. We'll be discussing it for the next week or so, and let's hope we don't ever see it again. It
should be said, Justin Sherman has apologised and says he's ashamed of what he's done, and I guess you take him at his word and think it was just an aberration. It was one mistake.
Yeah, that's right. And look, there's no excuse for what he did. There's certainly no excuse for what he did. The days are gone where you say, what happens on the field stays on the field, all that sort of stuff. When it comes to racial abuse, I think I think the AFL certainly have taken a huge step in how they've gone about educating not only footballers, but I think the general public.
Yep. Let's talk about the footy. The Bombers bombing again. They're sort of really 5 defeats in a row, really struggling. And your prediction that they would kind of hit the wall mid-season is really looking like it's coming true. Interesting. You cropped up in the news, even though it was a record I don't think you even knew you held. 10 contested marks in a game is an AFL record, held by you. Drew Petrie, North Melbourne player, against Port Adelaide yesterday, took 9, on Sunday, and he said he was happy to actually fall one short of your record. He didn't want to knock you off the perch or even equal your record.
It sounds a bit like Mark Taylor and Sir Donald Bradman, but...
Sir Don, there you go.
No, look, I don't think that. I think that Drew is in great form. Look, he's in great touch, and he's got beautiful hands, beautiful mark of the footy, kicking magnificently for goal. He's definitely he's North Melbourne's next captain, no doubt about that. I think he's probably, I mean, the fact that he's had his injuries may have even taken over this year or the year before, if not for the injuries that he had. But he's been fantastic this year, and probably the form forward of the competition.
Yeah.
When you look at Nick Rewalt and Jonathan Brown, and they've obviously had Rewalt with St Kilda's form.
Jack Rewalt's
Brown with obviously missing most of the first part of the year with injury, and I think he's definitely the form big man in the comp.
Yep. Let's look at another issue that's bubbling along, which is not really anything to do with on field, but it's to do with the issue of players' pay. Do they get enough? Do people believe Andrew Demetrio when he says that if players get the 27% set share of the pie that they're looking for, that kind of the world will cave in, and AFL fans will end up having to pay for it all? I don't know what your feelings are. I can guess that you're probably a supporter of the players they put on the show, and they're the stars of the show.
Oh, look, I've always thought the players deserve what they get. I think there are other factors. We have to make sure that we have strong competition, strong country league, strong juniors coming through. That they've all got to be looked after. The clubs themselves have to be in a financial position to be strong enough for the club to go forward. Hence the players, and there is a strong competition. So all of those factors. But in saying that, players deserve. I'm more than happy for them to get their 27%, and don't begrudge them whatsoever.
Yeah, good.
I mean, let's be honest. People still don't know that. I think the percentage has gone up, but the average. I think players that play 200 games. I think it's about 7 or 8% of players play 200 games. So that's a 10-year career. Not a long time. So. They've got to make hay while the sun shines, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to describe it. The Saturday Age had an interesting story on the front page on the weekend, which I think might have kind of softened people's stance towards the players' claims, because it revealed that since 2004, Andrew Demetrio's pay had gone up by something like in excess of 200%. The average player's base salary had gone up by 25%. Huge discrepancy, and I think people might have then started to think, well, hang on, maybe the players have got a claim here. Yeah,
look, I think anyone close to the game. I know there's some supporters out there that think that players are getting paid enough, and that it should all go back into grassroots footy and everything else. And like I said before, that they're all important factors. But at the end of the day, the players, like I said, only a very small percentage play for 10 years. So they really do have to make the most of it while they can. And let's be honest, they do put on the show. They put their bodies on the line. Most of them have arthritic bodies by the time they're 40, 45, and I certainly don't begrudge the players whatsoever. In actual fact, if it was more than that, I'd be saying the same.
Just talking on that, what injuries, when you get out of bed in the morning, do you feel you got sore shoulders still, or are you arthritic in any way? I mean,
my neck and shoulders and stuff ache and things like that. But I stay fairly active. One of the ways to get over or prevent arthritis, so to speak, is to keep the joints and muscles active. And if you do that, obviously it helps with arthritis.
But have you got teammates you know of who are really kind of struggling physically?
I run into players all the time that are my age that can't go for a run, for instance. Right. So they might be able to go for a swim or jump on a bike, but they can't go for a run purely because their body doesn't allow them to. So,
Interesting. Tell me, looking ahead to the next round, sort of highlighted, I think, by Essendon and Geelong. Mark Thompson obviously left Geelong under a bit of a cloud last year, joined the Essendon coaching panel, and that has left a bit of a sour taste in several people. Do you think there'll be any kind of ill feeling in that match, as some have predicted?
Oh, I'm not so sure. I don't think the players really worry. I think the players would certainly like to win against their old coach, no doubt about that. But No, I don't think there'll be any ill feelings. A bit like Gary Ablett Jr. No, different.
Not really. I reckon it is different.
Okay, well, if you think it's different, well, you tell us. What do you think?
I think some players, and I've just seen Matthew Scarlett as one quoted saying he was very unhappy with the way Bomber had left because he didn't feel as though Bomber had been totally honest with him. I think at least Gazza, once the deal was done...
Gazza didn't make the announcement. Gazza knew what he was doing halfway through the year when we announced it here on BackPageLead, Charlie.
We did.
And you know, well, we pretty much knew that I knew that he was going then, and yet he didn't. So I don't think there's too much difference in it, and I don't think you'll see too many fireworks. The players, once the players get out there, they'll just play as they normally would.
I reckon Geelong want to win badly and want to win by 10 goals.
And as will Bomber Thompson want to bounce back and see if he can upset the apple cart.
Can Essendon win?
Oh, 2-horse race. 2-horse race.
There's 5 big games in Melbourne this weekend. It's a really big weekend for Melbourne Victorian footy. And Essendon Geelong's one of them. Can I just walk you through the 5 games? And can you give us an early tip?
Yep.
Bulldogs in Melbourne?
Melbourne. I don't think the Bulldogs are playing well enough.
Melbourne, when they're on, aren't they?
Yep.
Richmond and Carlton?
The Blues to bounce back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll be very disappointed, so I think they'll bounce back against the Tigers.
Essendon and Geelong?
Yeah, I'll tip the Cats.
Yep. Make it, 14 straight. Collingwood and Hawthorn. I mean, if there's one team that's Collingwood's nemesis, it is the Hawks. And they get Buddy back, but they're still without Roughhead. Can I knock Collingwood off?
Yeah, look, I might tip an upset and tip the Hawks. I don't know. They just might be ready to win one of these big ones, and I just think they might be the value bet. And
North versus St Kilda. To wrap up those 5 games. North obviously won 4 in a row and on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, the Kangas playing very good footy with big Drew Petrie. I think the Kangas might beat the Saints. Saints coming off the bye, so I don't know what how they prepared over that period, but I just think the Kangas might get up and win that one, considering that they've won 4 in a row and looking at, obviously a top 8 spot.
Wayne Carey, thanks so much for joining us again. And the message is Mike Sheehan's piece on the Herald Sun website. You weren't out there spruiking your abilities, but if the right offer came your way, you might think about it.
Never say never, Charlie.
Never say never. Thanks, Wayne Carey.
Cheers.